everyone from Burlington and beyond Burlington. Tonight we'd like to interview Chief Michael Kent, our police chief. He's done an excellent job for Burlington. He seems to get along with all the other department heads as well as everybody in town. We think he's done a magnificent job so far. So Chief Kent, we want to welcome you back.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again. And to my left is Pat Marino. He's our co-producer tonight, or
Okay. Co-producer, I am. Yes. Thank you.
and we wanted to thank BCAT TV for their wonderful Friday night gala.
Yeah,
that was
that
a lot
was
of
good.
fun. Even though I haven't won anything yet, that was still a very fun party, very fun evening, and I hope everyone looks forward to the next year as well. Chief, again, is saying we want to thank you for coming tonight, and what if we could just get some of the, well, let's go back to initially how you came to Burlington. We covered this a year ago, but if we just got a little bit of synopsis.
Yeah, we'll shorten it up a little.
Sure, a little bit of your background, how you got into policing, and what made you want to do that, and what made you want to come to Burlington.
Well, I'm originally from Western Mass. I grew up in a small town called Granby, which is right next to Amherst, for those of you that went to UMass or have children that went to UMass. And I ended up at 18 years old getting hired by the Amherst Police Department. They had a cadet program up there. So I started there, and 28 years later, I was a captain, the second in charge of the department, and I saw a job listed for Burlington, Mass, which
I didn't know where it was.
people in town don't like to hear this, but I didn't know where Burlington was. And
Can we cut that out? Thank you.
I actually jumped in the car early one Sunday morning. I'm an early riser, and I took a ride down here and took a ride around the community, put a resume in for the job, and as they say, the rest is history. That was a little over 8 years ago, and you know, for me, it was the best move that ever happened to me. I'm very fortunate.
So it was the chief's position that you applied for?
Pardon me?
It was a police chief
Yes,
that
yep,
you applied
yep.
for?
They were advertising. Chief Hart was retiring, and they had decided that they wanted, for the first time, to open it up to outside candidates also. And I ended up being the first outside person to come to the department to be a police chief. So
Well, congratulations.
yeah, it's
And
been a great run. No regrets at all.
we think they made an excellent choice.
Well, thank you. I like to think so.
Pat, did you have a few
Yeah,
questions
no,
for the chief?
so many different things. I don't know where to begin. How are things in Burlington in general? I mean, do you feel comfortable? Do you come to work with a lot of concerns about what's going on? Is there anything that is, you know, difficult that is going on, or are we on a pretty steady stream of?
Well, we're a very active department, you know, for a community our size, just because, you know, as everyone knows, the old town of Burlington, city of Burlington, that 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. when our population,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
triples
Yep.
or more, depending
Yep.
on who you talk to. So that keeps us very busy during the course of a day, and it seems every day brings something different. My job, you know, I got great guys that work for me, with me, that handle, you know, the street, so to speak.
Are they all listening tonight?
I hope so. They're a great group. But my job more so is to oversee everything from that, you know, 10,000 feet perspective.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'd be naive not to say there's not things that concern you just from turning on the TV every day and seeing what happens in the world, in the United States. So there's always things. We try to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the country, what's happening with, you know, both domestic and national terrorism, things of those nature. We do have human trafficking in town, prostitution, if you will. That's very, very prevalent that we try and stay on top of. So yeah, there's day-to-day concerns I have. At the end of the day, I look at my job. The most important thing is to keep, you know, the residents, the visitors, people that come to Burlington safe, and that's the end of the day. That's my job to do it. So.
How do you manage to divvy up the force in terms of during the day when you've got 120,000 people over there and probably only maybe 15,000 during the day here in the residential area.
Yeah. Well, the town's divided up into sectors, and
According to the police. you
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But it's kind of call driven. If we have a serious call, Burlington's a small enough square mileage community where if you have a serious call, you can take a car from another sector, have them respond to assist the car in that sector. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yep. You know, the majority of our department works the day shift and the 4 to 12 shift, and the levels drop down on the midnight day shift just because the activity level, although it has increased in recent years, but it's not to the level of those other 2 shifts.
Opioid.
Yeah, sadly, Burlington is no different than the other bedroom communities. We have, I was just talking today with one of my captains. You know, we probably, I bet you at the end of the year, our average would be, you know, an overdose a week. We're probably in the mid 50s to high 50s.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. To different extents. You know, our department was one of the first to start carrying Narcan. So that's truly a life-saving drug.
Yeah.
So we go from that end of the spectrum where the officers are administering that and bringing someone back to life to an overdose that's not quite as serious.
Yeah.
The person's still
Yeah.
conscious,
Yeah.
but it's very prevalent. Again, we try and keep on the best practices model. We do have. We were fortunate enough to be picked by the acronyms PERI, Police Addiction Recovery Initiative. So we have a full-time recovery coach at the police department along with a case manager. And their job is if we have an overdose and it gets transported to Leahy, they can respond directly to the hospital. And often they're trained in that particular field, addiction. And
They follow the patient or they
yeah,
go right
exactly.
with them?
And they have a litany of resources that they can reach out to try and get a bed and a detox or things of that nature.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people are more comfortable, particularly if you just overdosed using an illegal substance, talking to a civilian as opposed to a police officer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are they hired by the police department, like
We
an
got them
employee,
through a
or
grant through
So
America Corp.
they're hired by the town of Burlington?
We do not pay them, no. They're paid by the grantee, which is America Corp, which picked the community of Burlington, asked us if we were interested and placed them here for us. So they're no expense to Burlington. And Perry, recently got a Cummings grant, which will keep the program going for at least another couple of years. So
Good stuff.
we're very fortunate because it's the addiction is everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
it's in.
Average age of addicts here in Burlington?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head,
I
but
mean, it tends
but I
to
can
be
tell you,
younger.
reading the reports, it runs the gamut. You know,
Really?
it goes from, you know, people in their late teens to
All the
people
way
in
up.
their 50s. So
Really?
it really, oftentimes it starts with getting
By my
addicted.
standards, that's pretty young.
Yeah,
50?
touche.
It's sad. It really is. I can't imagine what it must be like for a police officer to come across one of these here and and have to think about Narcan use and try to, because I'm sure that if it happens within the frame of a family, in a home, that you've got the family all upset, it can be very, very difficult, I'm sure.
Well, oftentimes it's a cycle, and this is what we're trying to break with the recovery coach to try and come in and kind of cut off and get them directed into a program. But oftentimes the officers are familiar with the family and the person because it's multiple calls down there. They get transported, the ER does what they need to do, and then they're back home.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, and you got to break that cycle.
So just to typify what the, how large the program is, or how large the drug problem is, does Burlington Police have a drug task force, for example? And would they typically carry out raids, that we may not have heard of, or?
I have a drug unit with 3 officers that works out of our detective bureau, and they are constantly out surveilling things. If they have a tip line that we get regular phone calls on. It could be a neighborhood dealer. It could be someone whose child is using, and they know who's dealing it to him. And oftentimes, if the officer or the detective can build probable cause, they can go to the courthouse and get a search warrant for if they're dealing out of a residence or an apartment in Burlington, to search that apartment. So that does happen. I wouldn't say regularly, but it's not uncommon to have it happen.
Would the Burlington police carry this out on their own? Would they be with somebody,
It
with
depends.
another enforcement group?
It
or-
depends. Sometimes it's just within our department, within our drug unit. Other times, we have an officer that's assigned to the DEA, and they will often get involved in the investigations also. So it depends on the situation, and then sometimes you could have a neighboring community, because oftentimes drug dealers don't stay in one community, they go back and forth. So the
Wherever
drug
there's business.
investigators have a very tight network of communication with their fellow investigators, both on the federal level and on the local level.
Do you think there are, what do you think? I'm sure there are people who push drugs. It's a difficult question. Part of, not that they're Burlington citizens, but that they make their way into Burlington on a regular basis.
Yes, and I may have told this story last time, and I've said it before. One of my drug detectives was telling me one time that they arrested a guy, this is several years ago, and I believe he was literally coming into town, going door to door, delivering his product. And one of the users, who, a blue collar guy, lived in a house, just had an addiction issue, told the detective, he goes, "Yeah, it's great you arrested him, but now all you force me to do is drive up to Lawrence in a bad section to buy my product." So, you know what I mean? It is out there, yeah. I mean, this was literally a door-to-door delivery, a number of years ago, but that's an example.
Can you talk a little bit about your typical day? Are you, I'm sure you're nailed to the desk. You have to be, because
Unfortunately.
there's so much paperwork and whatnot coming through, phone calls, this, that, and the other. Do you get a chance to get out?
Yeah, I try. My day, I'm an early starter. If someone, wants to get me, I'm usually at my desk by 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a morning person. And, starts out, I like to go downstairs in the dispatch area with my coffee and, talk to the officer on the midnight shift.
Get a
see
feel for
see what's going on. Well, I should back up. The first thing I do is I can log on from home to see what happened the night before. So even before I leave the house, I know what the activity level has been from the time I left till the time I'm going in. So I'll go into dispatch, talk to the midnight shift about what kind of night they have, just talk to them in general, then roll call at 8 o'clock. And then you're right, there's a litany of paperwork, and there always seems to be something to deal with. I try to get over to the town hall to touch base with the town administrator, just see if there's anything I should be aware of.
Sure.
Occasionally, I like to hop in the car and go for a ride just to get out of the office. I don't enjoy sitting in the office all day.
No, I can imagine.
But once you're, where you're at that administrative level, it's just part of the job. You have to accept it. I'm not. If you see me out driving around all the time, pulling cars over, I'm not doing what I was hired to do. My job is to handle the paperwork and the complaints, the different things that come in, and the officers are the ones on the street.
For a gentleman who has spent the majority of his time at the desk, looking over papers and reviewing this, that, and the other thing, you're in pretty good shape.
Well, I try.
How do you do that?
Well, I'm a runner and always have been, and try and work out regularly.
When do you get time to run? On the weekend, the morning?
Well, I get up early. I'm usually out there before 5, so I get that
You're
all
out
done.
there before me, yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Nice this time of year because the sun comes up early. You're not running in the dark.
Yeah. Year round?
Yeah, pretty much.
God bless you.
I
That's
wonder
great.
if we could get into some of the issues in town. Before we do that, is there a tip line number that you could remember?
Yeah, I don't
That
have it
we
off the
could get
top
on?
of my head, but it's on our website,
Okay, on the
Yep.
police website, town website.
bpd.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. If we could just bring up the question of tasers, why did you feel Burlington was ready for tasers?
Well, they've been out there for a long time, and frankly, I might have said this at town meeting. We probably are a little behind the curve, just because I wanted to be satisfied that we were going to be able to train our officers to the level that I would be comfortable for them having tasers out on the street. And there's several reasons for that. Obviously, you want them to deploy that in a proper manner should it need to be deployed. It's another tool on the tool belt, as they like to say. But I also, I was concerned, I didn't want an officer hesitating that, we carry so much on the patrol officer on their belt that,
Lots.
is this one where I might go for my OC spray or my taser or my gun or my nightstick, and
I don't
then
know how they
something
do it.
happens to the officer. So I'm very fortunate. I have two fellas, Sergeant Dan Hannafin and Sergeant Tim McDonough, who have been trained in the tasers. They're very knowledgeable of them, and through a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, they finally brought me around that it was time to have them in Burlington. And they are actually, as we speak, at a week-long class in Arizona, like the next level up for training on tasers. So we will be implementing after the 1st of July. And, I'm satisfied that our guys that are doing the training are, probably going to be one of the best trained, in the Metro
On
North
how
area.
to use them?
Yes, yeah.
how
So they
and
will train
when.
our personnel.
Okay,
Yeah. So, again,
good stuff.
it's it was a little extra training that a lot of places, as far as them being in Arizona, a lot of places wouldn't bother doing, but I felt it was the prudent thing to do. Sometimes you're penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
You don't do it and something happens and you're wishing you did. So
Yeah.
So do you believe we're a safer community because we've purchased the tasers
yeah, I think
for the police force?
I think it's going to assist the police and the public. It's statistical data shows departments that carry tasers, the injuries of police officers goes down significantly because they're not doing a lot of hands-on stuff, and the injuries to the arrestees, if you will, also goes down because the police aren't wrestling around with them. Tasers not a fun thing when you get zapped,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
to speak,
I
but
heard.
a few minutes later, it's all done.
Yeah,
So
it does the job, though.
both from the citizen standpoint and the police standpoint, I think it's a plus. And oftentimes, just from what I'm told, the mere presence of pulling a taser out, you don't even have to deploy it. The bad guy will give up.
What happens if somebody has a pacemaker, which could be definitely disrupted by
Yeah.
a taser?
From what I'm told, again, I'm not the expert, I'm not trained, I will be getting trained with the rest of the department, but the taser itself, it has to do with the amps or does not affect that. It's either a high amp, it's an
yeah.
electrical term that,
I think high voltage and
quite frankly
low
goes right over
amperage.
my head, but it doesn't affect tasers according to all the data that we saw.
Tasers
Or
won't
doesn't
affect
affect pacemakers
pacemakers.
according to all the data.
Okay, well
we saw.
that's good to know. A little
Yeah.
safety info.
Yeah, again, I'm very, very fortunate and I'm very comfortable with our two officers that are going to be the department trainers with their basis of knowledge. They are extremely sharp.
So it might be better to revisit some of these questions
Oh, yeah.
when we
Sure.
get that training.
Yeah.
Ask, is it harmful to any type of people or who have any type of medical
Well,
conditions?
Would
Would it be more harmful?
again, everything I've read, it's not. And the thing with tasers is, like anything, frankly, if you carry when I started, they called it a nightstick. Now you call it a baton. And if you hit someone with your baton in an area you're not supposed to hit them, you can kill them.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like anything that a police officer carries, theoretically, could, seriously hurt someone if it's not used correctly. Again, that goes back to the whole training component, if you think about it.
Well, that's true. Okay, well, that's good to know.
What would you say the average police officer most appreciates when he's out on patrol or duty? Is it an awareness that he's there? Is it someone who says, thanks for being here? Is it just feeling comfortable, maybe a little of, I don't want to answer
You know,
the
I
question.
think that it's always nice to be acknowledged, and truthfully in this town, and I'm not blowing smoke. Everyone, you know, people do acknowledge the police. It's a very, I think the community is very appreciative of their police department. But it's interesting when I was back in my other department after 9/11, it was very over the top, you know, the acknowledgement. And after the marathon bombing, I think my guys on the street saw a similar.
Really?
Yeah, I think it just kind of puts it into perspective a little more. But overall, this community of Burlington is very receptive to their officers, and most of the officers are part of the community. So it's kind of a
Yeah, that's a bit.
It's kind
So
of
I'm a little bit older than you, a little bit. And I remember when the policeman was the guy who crossed the kids, you know, and got to know each
Right.
and every one and ruffled their hair
Yeah.
and shook their hands and made sure that they knew. It was a different world. It's changed a lot. I see some of your officers out. Not that they are, you know, if they're out happen to be out for a coffee or whatnot, because I am frequently, and they're well dressed. They look as though they should be respected. I'm impressed with everyone that I see as part of your group. I'm not just throwing a compliment. I think you earn it, or your people earn it.
Thank you.
They're a great group. They really are. The ones that I don't know all of them. I don't know a few of them, but they're all good guys.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that again, great group of officers that I work with. I'm very fortunate.
So you're going to stay here for the next 20 years.
Oh yeah, not going anywhere.
That's good. We have so many retirements this year. It's hard to
Yes,
keep
we
track
have.
of all. It's going to be a very different town next year.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been kind of concerned, and I'm sure you have too, about the number of how common it has become for there to be a police shooting. Are we just fortunate in Burlington that hasn't happened? Are we taking precautions? Don't we have the same type of issues here that the rest of the nation appears to have?
Well, you know, it's interesting, and I don't know statistically if the overall shootings in the country, and it's tough to keep. The FBI always says it's very hard to keep track of the individual shootings. So the data you see is kind of sketchy on that. You know, quite frankly, we're probably a little bit lucky in this community, because if you think about it, we're right off of 128. We have a huge business district. We certainly could be ripe for the pickings for some serious crime, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want to say, you know, it's something that's never going to happen, but I think we've been very fortunate it hasn't. I think a lot of it has to do with, if you drive through Burlington, oftentimes you'll see the police with their car pulled over for anything, red light, stop sign, whatever, blue lights, and the majority of what we give are warnings to the operators. But I'm of the mindset a lot of times, I think the bad guys, if they are coming through town, if you see cruisers actively stopping cars around your business district, that sends a mental note, and you're going to get back on the highway and go to another community. I truly think that, and that's what we try and do around Christmas time in our business district. We just flood it with marked cruisers. Just, you know, if anyone is coming in to do something in Burlington, we want them to see a cruiser on every turn they make, and they'll notice that and go somewhere else, hopefully.
Yeah. I think a lot of the companies too. I mean, we have a lot of big companies, and they're tech companies, and I would think that they draw a pretty good level of personnel. I mean, they're not, you know, people who are having problems, who might get involved in drugs or whatnot. I think they're probably a little bit rare in some of these big companies. They're busy, they're working, they're doing their job, and there's a lot of them here in Burlington, which helps a little bit too. And then some of the companies that have their own police force, their own
Security.
Like I know that at the mall they used to have a couple of cars that would circle
security,
around.
yeah.
That helps a little bit too.
We actually have a program and a lot of the businesses are taking advantage of it, where we'll go in and talk to them about workplace safety. Should, you know, pick one of your high-tech companies, have someone walk through the front door with, you know, a gun, God forbid. what the best practice is, what they should be doing, and that's been very well received. And they've been going to get requested to go to a number of the businesses in town, as to what to do if something like that happens, to give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Every little bit helps
Absolutely.
to keep us just normal. Oh, boy. Is Officer Hannafin still on that special assignment? The, what do you call it? What do they call the...
NIMLAC, the
Pardon me?
SWAT team, the SWAT
SWAT.
team.
Not
You
SWAT.
gotta
SWAT.
you got to narrow it down. I got 4 Hannafins that work for me, so remember this is Burlington.
4 Hannafins?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, good for
So,
them.
yeah, so,
They're a great family.
Sergeant Dan Hannafin is on the SWAT team. Yes.
His father used to come, when they were all kids, his father used to come into I had the first pizza shop
Right,
in
yeah.
Burlington, and his father used to come in every Monday night. You buy 2 and you get 1 free. And automatic. Mr. Hannafin would be there, I think it was like 6:50 or
Yeah.
6:30, and they had to be ready. And he was a terrific guy, and I miss him.
Yeah, I've
very
heard
much.
that. Wonderful man. Yeah.
Anyway, and his kids have followed just like him.
Yeah.
They really are
Excellent
terrific.
family.
How about a couple of the other grants that have come through recently? I think a couple weeks ago it was announced that you were given a grant for some bicycles.
Yes.
Who was it that came up with that money, and did we request this, or is
No,
somebody
we were,
asked?
we were approached by the Third Ave Business District that they wanted to donate 4 mountain bikes, and they actually did it late last fall, so they really weren't used much last year. But we just did a photo op with them, if you will, and I know you had a nice piece on BCAT. But yeah, 4 beautiful,
Yeah.
the Cadillacs of mountain bikes,
Yeah.
I'm told, and we will use those around the reservoir now that the weather's getting warmer, road races and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But
Imagine you'll also have to use them around Third Ave. Since,
yep. Well,
They should be in the 4th of July parade.
sure,
too.
yeah,
boy, that'll make it easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beats walking.
Yeah, and we're hoping to have a presence. And the other grant we just received was from the Cummings Foundation. I'm very fortunate, Captain Greg Ski, and it's the second grant that he's gotten from them for $100,000. The first one was for a command vehicle that we bought 3 years ago, I believe, and this time it's going to be $100,000 to go towards a full 20-hour-a-week mental health clinician that can follow up on the issues that the police officer's dealing with on the street.
So who are the who are the people that the health professional will be mental health professional will be focused on?
They are
The
going
police force, the people that are being, well, it could be a stressful job.
Yeah, well,
hear.
that's true. It is a stressful job. No, they'll be dealing with. We regularly have calls for people having
Breakdown, stress, everything.
mental issues, if you will. People, we average about 40 to 50 suicide attempts a year. We have
All in Burlington, really?
yeah, in Burlington, and that's an average. Some we have actually the numbers were very close, 40 to 50 mental health issues. Not to the extent of suicide, but very similar
Yeah.
a year. So it's common, and the International Chiefs of Police has rolled a program out last year called the One Mind program, where they want every department in the country is slowly taking seed, but to take a pledge where 100% of the department will get trained in an 8-hour mental health course dealing with these people. And then 20% of the department will be trained to the next level up. And we're going to work our way towards that. We did take the pledge, and we're going to start that training. We actually sent a few people last week to the 8-hour training. But we're hoping that'll work with the mental health clinician. And
this will even include like Alzheimer's and dementia and patients,
elderly issues.
as well as the stress-related.
And the mental health clinician will, have the resources, at the Leahy, at the different places to get the person the help they need. I'll give you an example. The other day, we had a person that about 9 in the morning, we got called, got transported to the Leahy, and at 3 in the afternoon, we were called right back to the house again. She had went there, they had evaluated, and I don't know what the situation was, but anyway, she was back home by 3 in the afternoon. Again, it's almost like the addiction cycle you deal with, you know what I mean? So we're hoping we can break that cycle and get the people the help they need, because it's really
You're
sad.
touching upon being, I don't want to say a doctor, but certainly, I mean, a police officer, the average vision of a police officer is a lot different than the guy who goes out and tries to save someone from committing suicide, or, you know, or, yeah, that's a big stretch for an average.
These officers on the street, you know, in Burlington and any community really, I mean, they just deal with the, you know, it runs the gamut, you know, mental health issues. They're a marriage counselor. They're, you know, I laugh. I always tell a story. I remember when I was a 21-year-old kid as a patrolman, you know, some parent calling me because their 11-year-old was out of control. Sitting there thinking, I still live at home with my mother and father. What do you want me to do? But they expect, you know, we're expected to try and then solve the problem, and it's just, it's part of the job. But police work really does run the gamut.
How's the firing range?
Good. Those, thanks to town meeting approval, that will be starting after July 1 also, when the second phase of funds are released, and hopefully be all gutted out and ready to go by the fall. It'll be about a 2-month project, I'm told.
So by the fall,
I'm hoping
should
it's up
be,
for the fall, yeah.
or
yeah.
a little bit later,
Yeah.
maybe. It should be operational.
Yeah, the bids are out now, so we're waiting for them to, they've been sent out to the town procurement office.
Are you able to
handles
use it now?
that. Yes, we're still able to use it, but it just doesn't work very well anymore. It's like an old car, you know, it's on its last legs.
Yep.
So.
Has being a police officer in the town of Burlington become more difficult, more challenging since you've been here?
Yeah, I think it has, just because, well, in addition to the growth, there's certainly more people in town, you know, in the last 8 years.
Basically because of the business growth, because that's
Yeah, just
really the
people
more
coming
people.
in for everything. You know, I think traffic's getting worse. Excuse me. But then there's also, you know, it seems yearly, just recently, the Criminal Justice Reform Act that was put in place. You know, everything seems to change on a dime, and these officers, you know, are required to stay up on it, because if they don't stay up on it and they make a goof on the street, exactly, where something they should have known.
Yeah.
The things that an officer today is required to know compared to when I came on 30 plus years ago, it's night and day. I mean, it's just, I have so much respect.
That's in part what I meant with regard to being a medical officer as well as a police officer, and knowing the rules and regs that's quite a bit.
I have so much respect for these officers on the street today, because they have to know so much. And they got to know it like this. You know, it's not like, okay, you stay right here, I'll go to the station and open the law book up. They do a wonderful job, but that's changed, you know, even in 8 years. Seems like
And they're spiffy too. Everyone I see, I mean, they're really, they're starched, and they're got all of the condiments on, and they're ready to go, and that's really quite a tribute.
They're a good crew.
I couldn't do it, even then I couldn't do it. Anyway.
So does an average police officer have to spend so many hours studying or in training?
Yeah, the academy now is, to give you an example, when I went through in 1985, I want to say it was 13 weeks. Now it is 26. So that's a start.
Half year.
Yeah. And then once they come out, a new recruit, after a half year in the academy, then we have another 12 to 16 week field training where they ride with another officer. So when you hire a new person, you feel, oh, great, you're hiring a new person, you're back to full strength. That person really isn't, you're probably a year, you know, at the end of the day, by the time he's out on his own, maybe a little less. And then the officers are required to go to in-service training every year, which is a week, in addition to the in-house different trainings that we might do ourselves. So
that might be 2 full weeks of training,
yeah,
of just training.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting, the states, again, the state seems to constantly be rolling out new levels of training, unfunded mandates, if you will, you know what I mean? And so you got to train everyone in this. Okay, that's great, but you know, where should we be getting the money from? So
I have a pet peeve.
Uh-oh.
He's been trained, so go ahead.
I live on a street that connects Mill Street with Cambridge. And the people from Billerica use that to get on their way to 128.
Yep.
And when they're coming home, a lot of different people, especially during a busy day, we get a lot. Motorcycles. How do you get them to do whatever it is they're supposed to do to control the exhaust?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not pressing you. I understand it's a problem that is, I know you've got things to do that are far more. I wish there was a way, because we get a lot of them.
I agree with you. And I know exactly what you're talking about. The ones that just rattle your eardrums. I don't know. I mean, it's just. I think what happens is they have to get an inspection sticker, just like a car. So whether the exhaust gets modified after that, I've never been a motorcycle person, but I can't believe they get a sticker with exhaust like that.
Yeah.
And again, the problem is, if you pull them over, it is an inspected vehicle, and the decibel level, it's so arbitrary, without having the training. So it's a tough thing to enforce.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you mean, because it drives me crazy too.
Yeah. Some of them, not a lot, but some of them every now and then, they just want to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood knows that they've gone by, And if you've got a person who is ill, my wife's been having some difficulty. You feel it.
No,
but anyway, I understand.
You're 100% right.
One of many, many problems. Probably the lesser evil kind of problem.
Well, it's still it's important to you, to the people who live on your street, I'm sure. So that just because it maybe doesn't rise to the level of super serious doesn't mean it's not important. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the program that you offer for self-protection for women in particular? RAD.
What
is it, RAD?
Yeah, RAD, Rape, Aggression, Defense.
Okay.
And we offer that for women. We offer it for children. We'll be doing 2 or 3 weeks this summer. RAD Kids trains, stranger danger, that type of thing. If someone tried to grab you, what you should do. Very popular program. I believe it's posted on our website now for the summer session.
Okay.
We also come over, and it's a tradition every year. They come over and train the senior girls here in the mornings at the end of the school year, the ones that are going to be going off to college and whatnot in RAD.
Yep.
So extreme. And then we have an elder RAD too. I forgot about that. Train the elderly should anyone try to attack them. So very popular program.
I didn't know, an elder RAD.
Yeah. Very popular program. We probably got 8 or 9 officers trained in it. Lieutenant Glenn Mills is one of the ones that coordinates most of it.
And this goes on where, at the station?
No, they'll different locations. I think the senior ones they do with the Council on Aging, and the school one they do here, and the RAD Kids they do in the elementary schools. But very popular program and very useful from what I'm told.
Oh, good to know. I didn't realize that was that extensive.
So how is it working on the police force? It sounded like it was quite a long time that you spent at the Amherst Police Department. How difficult is it to get promoted? And that's typically what somebody in private industry would be looking for. It sounds like it's very, very tough. You just have to be very, very patient.
It is. I mean, we are, next week, as a matter of fact, we've had a couple retirements. Deputy Chief Tom Duffy retired and Detective Lieutenant Steve O'Meara. So next week, just through attrition, we're going to be promoting a captain, 3 lieutenants, and 3 sergeants. And
wow.
Yes, it's from what I'm told, there's never been a group that big getting promoted at once. But we're very fortunate in Burlington, but it also makes it very hard is all of the candidates for the promotions at each level were stellar. It's kind of like the baseball manager that's got 3 great first basemen. It's a good problem to have, but you can only play one of them.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right. In a department our size, 67, it takes time, and oftentimes, it's just a matter of numbers. You know, you may not end up getting promoted just because sheer numbers, and it doesn't happen that often. So it can be frustrating. I look at part of my job is to try and keep those people that maybe haven't been promoted yet, or we haven't had promotions in a while, to try and keep them motivated through different things, you know, offering them maybe some specialty jobs, if you will, to go with their normal patrol trainings, things of that nature. But certainly it can be any department, not just Burlington, any department of, you know, 70 or less. You know, there's only a certain amount of
How
movement.
many do you have in your?
We have 67. Oh, Amherst? Did you say Amherst?
No,
Oh, Burlington, we have
in
67.
Burlington.
Yeah, 67, yeah.
altogether.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
You're you must be looked upon as the father figure in the department. You know, you got a lot of young people.
Yeah.
One of them has a problem, comes to you, or you can usually, you probably, after they've been with you for a little while, you can tell if they're having a problem or not.
Yeah.
Try to resolve it in-house, obviously. Does that kind of thing go on regularly?
Yeah, I mean,
or?
yeah, I'm very
I
fortunate.
mean, everyone has every day.
I'm very, yeah, exactly. You know, it's just, it's like any industry. You got people that have issues outside of their job. I'm very fortunate that I have a great staff, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, deputy chiefs, that can usually handle most of the stuff through the chain of command. But yeah, on occasion, you know, it's in my office, and you know, you try and help the person as best you can to get back on
Sure.
track. You know, and that's it's like that in any business, I would
Yep.
assume. You know,
Yep.
people have issues.
Who's your dispatcher?
We have three. Gail Fay, June Conley, and Ed Calhoun. So we have three that.
They have a very important job.
Yeah, it is, and that's the start, obviously, of every call, and that's a very stressful position. It doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion.
I've had to call, and I couldn't help but think afterwards that, you know, I mean, the questions they ask, the demeanor that they maintain asking those questions, they want to get as much information as possible and accurate and as quickly as possible, because it usually is, I've had to call if my wife has had out to the hospital, and dispatcher has always been wonderful.
Yeah.
Lady one time and a gentleman another time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
It
that's
is.
for sure.
I'm sure, yeah. Oh boy, oh boy. You're all-purpose. No, I mean, we've talked about medicine, we've talked about law enforcement, we've talked about the tools of law enforcement, we've talked about the training, we've talked about the young people, staff. I mean, you know, and then we talk about Burlington, busy Burlington during the day, and Burlington residential at night. You know, there are so many aspects to your job or their job, the guys that are out there, that it really is amazing, and you ought to be commended. All of them ought to be commended. Are there any openings?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, we have a test coming up Saturday, June 23rd. If you go to our website, www.bpd.
Well, I have in mind over 60.
Over 60, sure. We do not discriminate. But no, we do have a test coming up, and if anyone interested in police work, Burlington's a great place to work, and we anticipate retirements coming up where the results of this test will be used towards hiring new police officers. So I would urge anyone interested to look it up.
No trouble recruiting?
It's down a little bit in this test, but usually we test close to 300 people. We're a little bit down this year. We're in the mid 130s or so. So hopefully that'll bump up in the next few
Can
weeks.
you talk a little bit about the test?
Yeah, it's a company that's out of Arlington that comes in and puts the test together for
Is it
us.
a written test?
Yeah, multiple choice.
Multiple? Okay.
Yeah, and then they break the test down, and their fee, they don't charge anything. They charge the candidate for the test, so that's how they make their money. But it's an excellent thing, and then they can break the test results down even more as far as race, gender, things of that nature. So
So
excellent company.
you get the final analysis
Yes.
of all
Exactly.
130.
Yeah, hopefully more than that. Sign up.
That's got to be a job in and of itself.
Yeah.
God, going through them and
Yeah, it's a company.
looking-
That's all they do is give police tests. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I wanted
Good
to
stuff.
check up on a couple other issues as far as how they're currently handled, if there is a typical way of handling it. But how about like drug possession and marijuana possession? Is that something that you would still be looking to book people and give them a court date?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, with the legalization of marijuana, that ship is kind of sailed. However, just as was suspected, the black market has not disappeared. There's still marijuana dealers out there selling, and will continue. I'm convinced of it. So there is a certain, the dealing part of it is still illegal, and we'll still keep an eye on that. But,
At least in Burlington.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
But outside of Burlington, they can deal.
Well, no, you have to be a license. So I'm talking
Okay.
about, John
Unlicensed
Smith
dealers,
is selling out of his house and undercutting the legal marijuana dealer by X amount. You know what I mean? Not paying taxes, not paying any of that.
Hard to get
That is-
excited about this, but okay.
That is still flourishing. Yeah.
And you still feel there's an active drug market in Burlington where we need to have things like drug raids, the ability to do raids?
Well, yes. I mean, the term raid is, kind of a generic term when most warrants for a search are, you knock on the door and the person answers it and you walk in. It's not the middle of the night, banging through the front door,
At
so
4
to
a.m.,
speak. You know what I
okay.
mean? Exactly. But yeah, it's out there and it's certainly prevalent. We've had a couple recent cases I can't really go into, but yeah, I mean, again, no community's immune. I don't want people in Burlington to think we're different from other kids everywhere.
We don't hear too much about it, so that's why I'm glad to get these updates.
Well, a lot of it part of the reason is a lot of it takes a long time to build a case. So you're not necessarily in a department our size, with 3 guys. They're not probably, serving 3 warrants a week like you would in a city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of surveillance. It's a very monotonous job sometimes. Hurry up and wait. You're dealing with unreliable people. If you have an informant that you're supposed to meet,
Yep.
they oftentimes don't show up. So it takes an awful long time to build a good case. So
Gotcha. And you had mentioned that there was human trafficking in Burlington. Would that also include child trafficking? Have we seen that?
We haven't seen that yet, but we've had a couple of our stings that we try and do regularly for prostitution where I remember one in particular, a girl, we traced her back. She was a runaway out of New Hampshire or Vermont, had been missing from her family. She was like 18 and was under, basically under the direction of a gentleman who was selling her out, on a regular basis and taking the profits. And again, you just got to open up it seems like once a week you can read an article about a community doing a sting and, it's out there. It's not a victimless crime by any means, as some people think.
I was out watering my tomato plants and I was listening to the radio, and you may have heard about this case where this judge who pretty liberal with regard to you probably know which one I'm referring to, and I'm just wondering how in your own situation do you find the judges that are would you say they're reasonable? Would you say that they are not quite as forceful as you would like? Or
I'm not at the courthouse every day. My years, when I was a young cop, you would be there almost daily, as are my young officers. The ones that are active out on the street making the arrests. And I think every court has a reputation of a liberal bias. They're not. Why are they letting these guys go? A lot of times it comes down to numbers. You can only hurt a certain amount. What I will say, and you've seen on the TV recently, is the 3 officers that have been shot and killed in the last few years, the Woburn officer, the one in Auburn, Officer
Yep.
Tarantino, and the most recent one on the Cape.
Yep.
I mean, no one will come out, it's on the news, and, Governor Baker will say, oh, yeah, it's something we got to study, we got to look at this issue. No one will just come right out and say it. None of those 3 guys that killed those officers should have been on the street.
Exactly.
And no one's been
I
held
agree.
accountable.
Yeah.
None of them. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
argument there.
Yeah.
And it
No.
becomes a political football where no one wants to say it. And that, to me, you have 3 lives snuffed out by,
Someone should
3
pay.
bad guys that should have been spending the rest of their life in
Absolutely.
jail. And no one's
Absolutely.
been held accountable.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes back to the question, should a judgeship be a lifetime appointment? Other than the
That
Queen of
is-
England and the
that's
judges,
exactly
that's about
where
it.
I was going.
Yeah.
And I am firmly in the category that says, no, they should not have a lifetime appointment. They should be appointed for a certain amount of time or however they want to do it, but not a lifetime appointment, because I think it's, it's human nature. You get weak after a while. You're seeing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes maybe your sympathy runs away with you. And that's exactly the case that you probably know which one I was
Yeah, I
referring
know
to
exactly.
that took on today. This judge from Salem, I think, or somewhere out there.
And that's the
Yeah.
same judge that released the guy on bail that shot the deputy in Maine and killed him.
Yeah,
Oh my
Same
goodness.
judge.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
yeah,
you know what's going to
yeah.
happen to him?
Oh,
The same thing that happened to the 3 judges that released those other 3 killers. Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah,
They'll still collect their check, and
yeah.
we'll be told
You-
how that's within their power.
Well, we have interviewed people here running for governor's council that helps appoint the judges, helps recommend the judges, and they were definitely against the lifetime appointments. They wanted to try and change that. So I wish them luck, and
Yeah.
Should be
I
changed.
think that also just would add to the corruption we hear about in the state, where if you're appointed for a lifetime, you're not accountable to anybody. Well, it just opens you up for other people to influence you,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to being accountable.
I think everyone should be accountable. I have a boss. I'm accountable to him. I'm accountable to the people in Burlington. I
So you
don't know.
think it might be a good thing for the state to look at its policy of lifetime judgeships?
My personal opinion, yes.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I wasn't
agree
sure
with
you were allowed to give opinions or political opinions, so I was
That's why I said
hesitant.
personal opinion. I'll cover the badge up. My personal opinion.
What do you do
Great.
for relaxation besides run?
I'm fortunate. I got a great wife and daughter at home, and I'm pretty simple. Get off of work. I like hanging around the house, and
Do you
like I
cook
said,
at all?
No, don't do any cook.
But you show up at the table.
Once I leave the police station, I really don't do much of anything. If you want to know the truth,
Do you use a firing
At
range
least you're honest.
a little bit once in a while. Yeah. But
for
When is
relaxation?
your vacation? I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
I finished. She answered it.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, when do you get some time off? Do you get some
oh,
vacation?
yeah. I use days here and there. Long weekends and stuff, and don't like to go away too long. I enjoy my job.
The holidays are probably. I remember 4th of July. I think you were in the parade.
Yeah,
You took part of it, which was great. It was good
Oh,
to see you.
Always very nice.
Just sort of a little bit more relaxed than. Do you take time during the summer at all?
Yeah,
Or-
I chew up some days here and there. You know what I mean? And use it up to recharge a little bit. But like I said, I enjoy going to work, so it's not something that I got to get out of here for 2 weeks and recharge. I enjoy my job.
Do you golf?
No, thankfully.
Do you ride bicycles?
I used to, but no, I just run. That's about it. I'll get my run in every day, and that gets me clear-headed in the morning. And it'd be tough to ride bikes out here. There's so much traffic.
Yeah.
And the hills too make it a little more challenging.
Yeah. I don't mind the hills, running them, but
You run and your knees hold you up okay so far.
knock on wood for the last
That's great,
35
right.
years.
Well, I have trouble walking. My knees bother me.
Well, we have just a couple of minutes left. If we could just go over a couple of things we talked about a little bit in Ways and Means Subcommittee, that you're looking at some other devices to help the effort in keeping peace in town. And one of those was dash cams, body cams, Tell us a little bit about the future of dash cams and body cameras.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dash cams, which go on the dashboard of a police cruiser and activate.
And the last thing I just want to cover too is the drones, use of drones.
Oh,
And
okay.
where are we with that program? Does that look like it might be coming? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so dash cams go on the dashboard of the cruiser and they activate when the blue lights go on. And interestingly enough, in Western Mass, they're very prevalent. My old department had them for 30 years. And out here in Eastern Mass, they're really not that prevalent. That's something we'd like to look to in the future because I think it would help protect the officer. Body cameras are something that I think eventually you're going to see come to every community. The problem with body cameras is the storage is just astronomical, the software end of it.
Yep.
The more I read about it, the more I think they make sense. I was a little on the fence to begin with, but I think eventually there'll be more communities will have them than don't, as time goes on.
Do the offices,
We don't have them in this town.
No, I know, but offices in general, your officers, are they amenable to them, or
Yeah, it's something new, so my guess is no.
has to
but
wear in? for a
like
little
anything
while?
changes
Yeah.
until.
But it's another responsibility. It's
Exactly,
another
yeah.
gadget.
Until something happens, and then if they didn't have it or if they had it.
I'm
it
sorry,
would
go.
help.
We're running.
Okay, I just want to also cover the use of potential use of drones in the future.
Yeah, I could see that. We've actually got an officer who took a training in drones. We don't have one yet, but I could certainly see it be helpful with traffic issues around town because drones have cameras that can, give you live pictures back.
Yep.
Lost people in the woods, things of that
Didn't we
nature.
have a few lost people over the last
Oh,
few
yeah.
years?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We had one maybe a year ago that they actually found her after a long search, and she was in tough shape. She wouldn't have made it through the night. So, yeah, it happens fairly regularly.
Will that be next year's warrant article?
I don't know if it'll be next year, but I'll get it to you eventually.
Okay.
We have 56, 55 and counting seconds left. Anything you would like to say to the people of Burlington?
No, we were talking earlier about town meeting and how I enjoy the questions. We were kidding about it, but I do enjoy the questions, and I just want people to know that they don't have to wait till town meeting or be a town meeting member to have a question. If something's going on with the police department or in town that I can help them with, feel free to give me a call, and I'll do my best. That's what I'm there for.
That's great.
Terrific.
Okay, we thank you very much. Thank you, Chief, for joining us once again. We hope to have you back,
betcha.
so you can always keep us up to date what's happening with the town. And next week, our guest is going to be Scott Lively, who is running for the Republican nomination for governor. And so we're looking forward to asking him a few questions. And then a month from now, we will be interviewing somebody running for Senate. That's Shiva Ayyadurai. You may have heard of him. So stay in touch, stay tuned. Come on back.
Thank you.